Are there any other cases that are similar where we have boycotted a country? I think you already spoke to this, but where we have boycotted a country and then you require government employees to not purchase, to also boycott them on a personal level. Is there any other instance?
Well, I mean, we have things
Well,
like
we impose
you can't buy
economic
Cuban goods.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Well, that's kind of the same thing.
Well, see, for me, what this means is this teacher, like you said, can't buy an HP printer at home.
Well,
right?
she can.
Well,
She wants to be able to not buy one, and to be able
Right.
to say it's up to me what reasons I
Right.
don't buy an HP printer.
So have they had that sort of requirement on for any other country? So if we're boycotting,
It's just weird because they're
North
basically
Korea.
saying that they're supporting Israel for religious reasons, and therefore, if you boycott, you're boycotting for religious reasons, and that's somehow. I mean, and this is Arizona, like you said. This isn't. They haven't made the Texas argument, but if we, were to translate that, they'd be saying that she is somehow discriminating against, Judaism in this boycott. Because the state is choosing to support Israel as this weird national religious evangelical move. It's really weird.
but like South Africa, if we're
Apartheid, okay.
if we're boycotting South Africa, and I work for the government, I'm a teacher, and they tell me I can't purchase I can't
Not purchase
something made in South Africa. Has anything like that ever happened?
It's weird.
It just boggles the
Well,
mind.
it's like you can not buy it, but you can't not buy it for these reasons. That's what makes it so bizarre.
Why
Yeah,
are they
it's-
dictating what an individual can and cannot do based on government policy?
and based on what their motivations are for doing
Right.
so.
But I mean, if you're in the military, I've often felt that they kind of own you and they can tell you where to go and what to do and so forth. But if you're a teacher or you work at the post office,
Okay, so let me ask it this way. Let me just go ahead and throw this out there. So if they were to say, this amounts to anti-Semitism, like you're being anti-Semitic by engaging in this boycott,
that's what they're trying to.
and someone else says, hey, if you had a teacher that came out and posted a bunch of racist crap, and you fired them, people would say that's justified.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the delineation here?
The motivation behind, and I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. If I engaged in this boycott, it would be because I object to the way in which Israel is behaving toward the occupied areas, not out of an animus toward Jewish people. There may be people who, because they don't like Jewish people anyway, well, this gives me a sort of, fig leaf cover for doing that. So I'm not going to say that some people don't have, ill will toward Jewish people and are, as a result, participating in the boycott. But the boycott itself, the BDS movement, and I'm just now realizing that that's BDSM and whatever. But the BDS movement has nothing to do with how people feel about Jewish people. It's about how people feel about the way the Israeli government is conducting itself, and that is a huge distinction.
I get that. But isn't it pretty clear that the United States involvement in this is and this is what I've read. Now, I admit that what comes into my feed is biased. So correct me if I'm wrong. That support of Israel is very much supported by the fact that evangelicals feel that Israel is important to the second coming. Am I right? And
I think that a substantial amount of the support for the way we have engaged with Israel in the last 30 years is, yes, a result of
so
of Zionism.
I'm not nuts on that. Okay, so there it is about religion, basically.
Yes,
Right.
I think in part the government's motivation for imposing the restrictions is motivated by religion.
I think so too. That's what I think is weird about it. It almost seems like a religious oppression as opposed to protecting a religious freedom. It's like they're imposing a Christian and a Jewish religious motive onto people who maybe don't want to buy into that. Like, you have to do this because this is our religious perspective, that this is the right thing to do.
And yet the people who are this is so backwards and forwards confusing. But in fact, the whole relationship with Israel is because of religion.
Well, no,
Kind of.
I mean,
the Holocaust. I mean, there's
Britain gave the land over as a result of reparations after World War II, and they had all kinds of stipulations
I'm
that have
talking more
since flown the
about
coop.
the Zionism stuff.
Yeah, that's all religious, and that's gone back before
Right.
the reinstitution of the state of Israel. That you had that going on with, I think, even Napoleon was into that. But I think what's weird to me is it's kind of thought police. I don't know of any other thing that is like, if you're buying something or you're not buying something or you're doing a thing for legal reasons, I can't understand saying it's illegal to do it for this subset of legal reasons, right? So, for example, boycotting is not illegal. We're allowed to boycott. And so if someone says, I'm not going to buy this because I'm boycotting, they're saying, no, we're going to cut off that contract with the government. You cannot legally contract with the government and also not buy this product because of a boycott, which boycotts are legal. And in the same vein, though, you can contract with us and not buy this product because you prefer another product. You can contract with us and not buy this product because your brother-in-law gets you a good deal on a different product. It's like you can have all these other legal reasons to do it. And certainly you can have a legal right to purchase a thing, and you can't purchase it to do something illegal with it, right? I can't buy a gun to go out and murder somebody, right? But I have a right to buy a gun. And in this case, what I'm saying is they're basically saying if you want to buy the gun for home protection, that's not legal. If you want to buy it for hunting, that's legal. And it's like, but it's okay to protect my home. Like, there's no law against home protection. Like, people are allowed to protect their homes, right? So it's weird because it's not even a distinction of you're doing this for some reason that is illegal, or you're going to do this and you're driving your car because you're escaping a bank robbery. It's your getaway. Well, that's not legal. You can't be driving away from the scene of a crime. But you certainly have a right to drive your car. But they're kind of saying you can't drive it to the grocery store, but you can drive it to the library.
This gets back to the cake thing, though, to me. It's not the same species or genus, but maybe the same family. The cake is okay to be made and sold as long as it goes to something I agree with, but not if I don't agree with it. What the hell difference does it make? It's a cake. Make it and sell it. Same thing. It's like the flavor of it is what they're objecting to. It's the same feeling to me.
It has a weird, and so that's why I have to look at it and say, why do I support the sale of the cake, right? Like the indiscriminate sale of cake, but I don't support stopping her from not purchasing this product. And I think part of it is that she's not denying somebody her services, right? She's not saying, I refuse to serve. Now, I would probably be against her if she was saying, I will not work with Jewish students.
Yeah, that's different.
Then I would be all over that, right? Because that would be apples to apples with not selling the cake.
Right.
And I would say she's on the side of wrong in that case. But when she basically says, I don't want to buy these products, well, you don't have to buy product.
Oh, I'm not talking about her decision. I'm talking about the way the government views this. This action.
It's strange because they are trying to use that weird same concept of discrimination, but almost in a backward way. That ends up thought policing people and saying, but why don't you want to buy it? I don't have to justify purchases I don't make. Like, that's absolutely wild to me that I would have to offer a justification for not buying a thing personally.
Tracie, if you get really sick of whatever you're doing in life, be a lawyer, please. You can do so much good.
I don't know. We have a lawyer, thankfully,
Yes,
here on the panel today to check me when I say wacky things. But
no, it's not whack at all.
But yeah, it's so backward that they would rail against the cake thing and then try to make somebody justify non-purchases
Exactly.
in her person. It amounts to her personal life.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yep.
it does.
Oh,
I agree.
Oh, thank you. This is the whole past couple years have been so full of gaslighting. It always feels great when somebody says, "Yeah, that's horse crap." Thank you. Oh, this.
I'm glad that.
You just read so much of it, and it's like, really, for real? Have we lost our minds as a society? Okay, no, we haven't. They're just some very powerful people.
It is, though, like Through the Looking Glass, where you go into this weird upside down land, where you're allowed, where they want you to be able to not be able to sell goods to certain members of society, but then force someone else to buy things. Like, that's...
Well, yeah, and you can't use this bathroom, but we're going to force you to use this other bathroom.
Yeah, I would never force people to buy a thing.
Right.
And I get, and even isn't even that one of their that's one of their talking points against the Affordable Care Act, right? Is you can't force people to buy insurance. Right? You can't force people to buy things. And like, what are we doing with this woman?
Yeah.
We're trying to tell her she can't not buy something. In the meantime, Texas is part of the lawsuit saying you can't force people to buy insurance.
And by the way, I have not read it, but it's my understanding that Texas joined on to one of the amicus briefs that was filed in the Arizona Ninth Circuit case.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So I'm interested to read their arguments there, because I imagine that you'll see some of those same arguments in response to this teacher in Pflugerville.
Yeah, this is a trip. Is there anything else on that table of contents? Where are we at?
Wait, there's more.
I don't even know how we're doing on time, or I'm not even paying
There's
attention.
the clock out there.
Oh, is there? Oh, good. That's so much easier to see.
That's for me, because I can't see very well.
Okay.
Let's see. We talked about the state's compelling interest outweighing the First Amendment.
We did.
The First Amendment does not compel the state to subsidize plaintiffs' boycotts, even if they cannot be outright prohibited. We talked about they're playing fast and loose with subsidy versus just being able to contract with the government on the same grounds as anyone else. And they claim that the district court's preliminary injunction is too broad. The district court put an order in place saying until the resolution of this case, the government cannot enforce the Arizona statute at issue. And apparently they say that was overbroad. So this is a 70-page brief, and I have not gotten yet to the part where they talk about that.
Well, that's not unusual,
So
right? For them to put a restriction on something like that when it goes to court and say, hey, you need to do business as usual and not enforce this law until we figure out what's going on. I mean, that's not unusual at all. There's a word for that, right? Not like a stay, but what do they call that?
It's a preliminary injunction.
Okay, yeah. When they basically say this law doesn't get exercised until we sort this out.
Right. And there is, you are required to make some fairly substantial, showings in the court in order to have a preliminary injunction imposed. You have to, for instance, the plaintiff in this case would have had to show that he was substantially likely to wind up the victor in the case, which is an interesting thing to prove without simply proving the case.
Right, that's interesting.
But it's how it works.
I was I was never aware of that. I learned that just this moment.
Yeah. And that you'll suffer irreparable harm unless a preliminary injunction is imposed, and a violation of a constitutional right is an irreparable harm. So, so that is that is satisfied by the fact that this appears to be a restriction on his free speech rights.
And so this teacher, why has she not received that? Where are we on?
So
well, Texas is in a different state
I know.
of litigation, right? Like she's
Right.
filed.
But she
yeah,
doesn't-
she
she's
has
out of
filed a
job.
complaint. There
Yes.
may be the balance of interest is a little different here because it's a question of employment. So the perhaps her lawyers feel that the state would have a better argument for whether or not the state would be harmed by the preliminary injunction, in as much as, you know, they would have to be paying her, and there's really no there would not at the end be a mechanism for them to recover that money other than the plaintiff filing a fairly substantial bond with the court.
A teacher's salary is really?
I'm just speculating on what their arguments might
Okay.
have been,
And I've been a teacher; they don't make any money.
She may be seeking a preliminary injunction.
Okay.
I am not sure whether or not that's
Right.
the case. She, as far as I know, just filed the complaint a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
She could still file a preliminary injunction, I think.
Okay.
I don't, off the top of my head, know a reason why she couldn't. And she may have already, and I'm simply not aware of it.
Right.
Sure.
And then, because I'm a parent, I'm thinking about, okay, what about the kids that are not getting what they need? And those sorts of pathologies are
Oh, yeah,
time
that's-
sensitive, and if you don't get them in, you know, the window of time, sometimes you can't recover from it. I just, wow, all over something just patently absurd. Patently absurd.
Yeah, all over really the question of, so can you justify why you're not buying these products?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, the Texas law is incredibly vague. So it's not even clear. Going back, I think all the way to the beginning of our discussion, you were saying, you know, it doesn't prohibit her from, you know, going out and protesting about Israel's, you know, conduct or advocating for the boycott. It's not entirely clear from the text whether or not that would be allowed.
Oh, okay. Okay, no, it's a good clarification.
And yeah, part of the argument that she's making is that the statute is so vague that she doesn't know what she is allowed to do.
Okay, okay.
That makes sense. Oh, wow. Okay. Is that the table of contents?
I think we're good. I mean, if you wanted to move on to, you know, a few other things, and Geoff is free to stay if you want to come and just sort of play with us for the next 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. It's going to be good stuff.
I am happy to stay on. I wanted to just take a look real quick and see if I have the language that's in her contract that she refused to sign.
Okay, right on. Let's hear it.
Pursuant to section 2270.001 of Texas Government Code, the contractor affirms that it does not currently boycott Israel and will not boycott Israel during the term of the contract. Boycotting Israel means refusing to deal with, terminating business activities with, or otherwise taking any action that is intended to penalize, inflict economic harm on, or limit commercial relations specifically with Israel or with a person or entity doing business in Israel or in an Israeli-controlled territory, but does not include an action made for ordinary business purposes. So there's some question of whether her, you know, saying on Facebook, I support the boycott, you know, limits commercial relations specifically with Israel, or
in some way
could be considered as inflicting economic harm on Israel. So I think there's a strong argument to be made that it goes beyond simply her economic decisions.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah.
And that because of that, it's far too vague.
Dang.